Welcome back to the Star Wars Newsnet channel. It is time for the Monday pod, and as always, I am joined by my good friend Luke. We're recording this on a Friday night, 9:43, fresh after a Caitlin Clark 29-point, 10 assist, 5 rebound performance, I think, in the win against the Phoenix Mercury. Feeling really good about this one. Only 2 games back for the Mercury now, but the basketball pod will have to wait for another day because, as I understand it, we have a special pod here today, courtesy of, I guess, my idea, but your research and hard work. So, for those of you who
A
are
joint effort.
unaware, for those of you unaware at this point, I am a public school teacher in middle school. I teach 8th grade English. And so this week was the first week back to school. And so we decided, what if we did a back to school pod for Star Wars? So Luke has put together a list of students. And so when he's going to say these students' names, basically these list of Star Wars characters, these Star Wars kids that might be walking into my classroom for the first week of school, and I'm going to label them either, an apprentice or a menace. And we're going to talk about, how as a teacher I might react to seeing some of these children from the Star Wars galaxy make their way into, ironically, my Star Wars themed classroom. So, Luke, are you feeling good? Are you ready to get going on this one today?
I feel pretty good on this one. I've got a pool of 11 students here. We don't have to get to all of them. Some of them are
Okay.
pretty niche, some of them are pretty popular. So
Okay.
I've got some interesting ones for you. I feel like we're gonna have some fun with this one.
Okay, we're gonna mix it up a little bit. I'm ready to go. I'm excited. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for hopping in. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, thank you for, tuning in. Please leave us one of those little 5-star review things. Let us know how we're doing. Really appreciates it. Over here, trying to give you 3 good podcasts a week here, all on Star Wars. For those of you who need that Star Wars itch to be scratched throughout the week, that's what we're here for. Luke, student number 1, take me to a good place.
Let's start off strong. Someone who we're going to have hopefully a good time with, okay? First
Okay.
up, walking into your classroom, we have Omega from the
Oh,
Bad Batch.
Oh my goodness. Apprentice all the way. So when Omega walks in my room, here's what I'm expecting when she walks down the hall. She's going to be the kid that's like early to class because she just wants to be on time. She wants to put together a good impression. She's the kid that I'm going to rely on maybe a little too much in class. So there's some kids that you when you're thinking about how to pair students in class, like one of the things that they talk about at some of these like seminars or PD developments is like you want like a good mix of like learning levels in like your classroom in your different groups. Like you don't necessarily want maybe your best like reading students all sitting together or your top whatever students all sitting together. It's good to like mix those groups up. And I feel like Omega would be, being a clone in general, but we've seen her. She's super intelligent. She's very smart. I would probably like put her intentionally out of her comfort zone. Like she might want to sit with her friends. She might want to sit with her other clone friends, but I might intentionally put her over with certain students that might be have a harder time making friends or have a harder time finding someone to help like get them out of their comfort zone, because I know Omega is one of those kids that's like, they're going to be able to relate with everyone. They're going to have that deep heart to reach out to a fellow student. And so like definitely Omega's like a teacher's dream. The only problem with Omega, this is the only way she would be a menace, is I wonder if 2 things. One, that absent count would get racked up like really high, and like we would have to worry about like some sort of truancy violation because she's going on missions with her brothers during the school week and not saving that for summer break and like winter vacation. That's my only concern with Omega. And I'm also worried, like, do I need to have like some sort of like lightsaber on hand if Cad Bane shows up, into the Star Wars classroom trying to kidnap my students, like to take them off to the clones. So no, Omega's like a dream student. I'm just worried she's gonna go on too many missions with with Rekka and Hunter and Crosshair.
So that's what I was thinking. She seems like a dream student. She's a facilitator. She's gonna get people who don't work well together, she's gonna get them to work well together. She's shown that in
Yes.
season 3 of, being with the kids inside Mount Tantus. I thought she was a really good pick. All right, let's do one
Okay,
that's a little
let's
bit more
you set me up.
niche.
You gave me a softball like to start. Like you gave me like a real softball, like the
Okay, so
world's
you're ready.
dream student. Like this, like the classroom is looking so good right now. Like the classroom, I'm like the vibes are great. She like walked in with a smile. Hello, Mr. Bradshaw, and then like has a seat.
Let's go with the second student to walk in is gonna be Kitster Benai. Now, if you don't know Kitster Benai, he is
Kitster.
Anakin's best friend in The Phantom Menace. Now, upon researching him, he does seem to be actually Anakin's really only supportive friend. I think I'd lean a little bit more positively on this kid, but
Mhm.
what do you think about Kitster?
Okay, so a few
You've
things about
watched The
Kitster.
Phantom Menace so many times. I feel like you
Yes.
would actually be
No.
able to answer this.
Think about this. When Anakin's quote unquote friends or fake friends are watching him build this pod race, and you got, Greedo, like the kid that's like, I guess that's Greedo. Is that Greedo? Is that confirmed to be Greedo? Or
I
like there's like
don't
that scene
I
where
don't
I like
know.
the deleted scene where they say it's like Greedo, but we don't know. I guess we don't know that. But the Rhodian's like, "Oocha, oocha, honey." Oh, and then you have the kids like, it's never gonna run. And then the other boy that's like, come on, let's go
Let's go
play
play
ball.
ball.
And then they leave. But there's one kid that stays. There is one kid that remains loyal to Anakin that says, I'm going to be by your side, even if this goes poorly. And that is Kitster. He's there the whole time. Kitster also is not necessarily like obviously the recipient of lessons from Qui-Gon during this time. But because he stays by Anakin's side, he probably picks up on little tidbits of wisdom from one of the greatest Jedi masters that's ever lived in Qui-Gon. So I'm getting a student into my classroom that has been around, Qui-Gon Jinn, that has shown his loyalty to Anakin when before Anakin was a Jedi or before Anakin was anything more than just a slave for Watto. Kitster's like, this is my friend. I'm going to stay by him. Very much like Omega, I can trust Kitster to, be loyal to do the right thing in this classroom. He's going to be someone that I can stick by this in this group, and he's going to like help them out. He's going to say loyal. We do a lot of teamwork in my class, and we have like little team competitions. Like Kitster's going to have his team on point. They're going to be ready to go. They're going to be on track.
What I
They're
was
going to
thinking.
stay on target. Now, the thing I will have to make sure I do for Kitster is I have to make sure that I win Kitster over early. Like if I get Kitster on my side, like, this, well, I'm serious. Like teaching is all about relationships. Like if you get a
Oh
kid
yeah.
to really love you and like you and want to work for you, like they will do anything. Like even the kids that don't like, working at all, and they just want to go play ball. Like if you get that kid, if you get him to buy in to like you as a person because you've developed that relationship, you've taken time. Like kids will do anything. And so if I can get Kitster bought in and I can like relate to Kitster and he's loyal to like me and my classroom, this guy's gonna be a champion for English language arts. Like he's gonna be one of the top tier students to lead the way. So I'm all in on Kitster. Like you gave me
Wow.
two just
Wow.
absolute apprentice level, students right off the bat.
Well,
I just
let's
the
see
only thing
about
we have,
this
I
third
guess,
one.
I guess before we do that, there is the problem with is Kitster like a slave on Tatooine at this time?
Yes, he is still a fellow slave at this
Okay,
time.
we just have to make sure he doesn't run away so his internal thermal detonator doesn't explode. I guess that's
Yeah,
the only thing we have to
chipped.
worry about with Kitster. And they blow you up. Boom.
All right. So two like really good students here off the bat.
Oh
But
yeah.
this third one, I don't know how you're gonna feel about this one because next in the door we've got Wicket Warwick from the Forest Moon of Endor.
Wicket, huh?
He's walking
Oh
in,
man.
and you're thinking, well, I've got a translator droid. It's not gonna be a language barrier.
Okay.
We're gonna be fine.
Okay.
Relationally,
Okay. So I'm in my Star
behavior
Wars.
wise,
So it's a Star Wars. I'm in the Star Wars universe in my Star Wars classroom. I have Omega sitting here. I have Kitster sitting here, and in comes Wicket walking in. And you're telling me I have a translator droid. Like I'm good to go.
you don't
Like I
have to
don't
worry
have to
about the
worry
language
about.
barrier here.
Okay. Like 3PO is over there to communicate between me and Wicket, so we're good. Okay.
Exactly.
Wicket, here is the category for Wicket. There's always those kids that you have in class that get a like they are, maybe they have a really great personality. They're a cute kid, they're a sweet kid that is really charismatic. They're easy to root for, kind of like Wicket in Star Wars. He's easy to root for. You just want to cheer for the little teddy bears to defeat the Empire. Here's the thing though about those kids. They know that they are charismatic. They know they have charisma. They
Exactly.
know that you're laughing. They know they have you right where they want you. So they know that they're gonna push the boundaries of what they can get away with, and they
Absolutely,
and
he will.
because they know it. And so Wicket's gonna be like taking his like little wooden like stick, his little spear, and he's gonna be like poking kids under the tables with it. And Omega's gonna be like, oh, stop, Mr. Bradshaw. And so I'm gonna have to it's going to be difficult because I'm going to have to make sure I have a firm grasp on, the culture and the procedures for this classroom in order to rein Wicked in. But at the same time, he's going to know he can get away with a little more because he's funny and he knows he's funny. But the trick with Wicked's going to be how do I let him be Wicked in a way that's productive for the class? Like, how can I involve him enough so that way his best qualities are able to shine through? So I'm going to go apprentice for Wicket instead of menace. And because I think that most of Wicket's traits are like positive. However, as Ewoks have shown, if there's a kid that gets on the bad side of Wicket, do not mess with an Ewok. These guys are savage. So we do have to make sure that things never get a little bit too rowdy. So, but
He could be savage.
I'm gonna say apprentice. I'm gonna say apprentice.
Man, okay. I didn't I'm gonna say a lot of these kids I feel like I was towing the line with. You're going with apprentice on a lot of these. I'm trying to see if I have anyone that would
That's
really
well, this is
tip the
probably part of
scales
my
here.
problem. Like I'm such an optimistic like person and
It's a
in
good thing.
general for things. Like, well, as a teacher, like it's like I'm gonna find the road to the best
All
part
right.
of this potential student in my Star Wars classroom. And also, I'm a teacher now in Star Wars. Like, one of these kids, for all I know, like Princess, like you're gonna put Ben Solo in my class here in a minute, and Princess Leia's gonna walk in, and I'm gonna get to hang out with Leia and Han. Granted, that would be a terrifying. Trying to do a parent teacher
Parent teacher
conference with
conference.
Han Solo. Can you imagine what that might be like? Like Han, your kid's a little out of control, and then Han's just
So am
gonna
I.
be like, he's like, you want to see out of control? Like, and he's like,
Yeah.
grabs me. And I'm like, I'm worried about my safety now as a teacher. That's another podcast. Who would give the worst, craziest parent teacher conference? Like Han has to be up there as the parent that you least want to see walk into your classroom for a parent teacher conference. Um,
Do
any
not
sort
want
of
to see that
Wookiee
guy.
parent, any sort of Wookiee parents, if they're if like if Gunji had, if we knew Gunji's like mom and dad were, and Gunji was acting out in class, like I guarantee you, I wouldn't want to tell a Wookiee that their kid was acting out in class
Swift punishment from them.
because droids aren't known for tearing their teachers' arms
Arms
off if
out
their
of
kid's in
those.
trouble.
New strategy. Let the Wookiee win. All right.
Okay, number 4.
Let's try to tip the scales here. So now, oddly enough, you've got this kid who saunters in, and it's Nadar Veb. Now, who is this? Do you maybe not remember off the top of your head?
Oh,
It's
I know Nadar.
Kit
I know Nadar.
Fisto's former Padawan, seen in the Clone Wars. So, how are we feeling about this
Moncala,
kinda
right? He's
cocky kid?
Moncala.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
How we dealing with
So
him?
we're going straight menace here. Straight menace, okay?
Okay.
Because here's the thing. I the one archetype of student I think that gets on my nerves the most are are maybe some that have like a sense of like arrogance about them, that like they feel like everyone owes them something, and they're maybe
There we go.
like a little bit like arrogant, or like they think they know everything, about everything in the universe, like they're the smartest, here. And some kids actually are freaking smart, like, I've had students that are smarter than me. They walk in, they know more than me about the subject that I'm teaching because they're freaking geniuses at 8th grade. Those kids exist out there. But Nadar is not one of those kids. Like this, we see this very clearly in his time in the Clone Wars. That he's trying to tell Kit Fisto what to do, a Jedi Master what to do, and clearly it gets himself killed because he tries to take General Grievous on, you know, on his own. This would be a kid that comes in and thinks they don't need to do anything in class to go ace the test at the end of the semester, only to fail the test at the end of the semester. So I'm gonna go menace for Nadar. Here's my trick with Nadar would have to be, we would have to find really something that we can really relate on to try to get him like, oh, excited and energetic in class to at least relate with me. Like maybe his teachers, he's gonna be like that with other teachers, but for my class, it's like we're gonna find something that we can banter about, we can have some fun with, and that might help translate to me being able to push you to do better in your work. So my first act would be trying to talk with Adar. Is how familiar is he with Moncala politics? Like, is he a Lee
Mm.
Char supporter? Like, and is he a Prince Lee Char supporter? Because that's my boy. And maybe if he's a Prince Lee Char fan, that could be something that we can bond over and talk about. If he is anti Prince Lee Char, or King Lee Char, if he's Nadar at this time is alive during King Lee Char's reign, hopefully we can, because we can extend his life expectancy now that he's not fighting Grievous, he's in my classroom. So maybe he's anti Lee Char, and we can like have some fun talking about who maybe the rightful ruler of Moncala should be. But something tells me Nadar would somehow be a Rift Hampson supporter. Anyway, so we're going menace for Nadar. Although I have hope. There is hope still that he could do something with his life besides trash Kit Fisto, mark clones off as meaningless, and try to take Grievous one-on-one.
What a kid. What a kid. Okay, so you notably love The Last Jedi. So I've got one here for you pulling from this movie. You're like, "What?"
Oh, I think
Okay.
I know where this is going.
His name is Tamiri Blag. Who is that? It's the kid who pulls the broom toward him at the
Broom
end of
Boy.
the
Okay.
movie. It's Broom Boy.
Okay.
Now
I
I don't
did
know if you've
actually
got
didn't
a
know Broom
lot
Boy's name.
I don't know if you got a lot to go on, so I thought I'd maybe just test your skill here with how much we don't have a lot about this character, but
Hmm.
from what we do know, he seems pretty mild, temper-mannered.
Hmm.
He chooses the right decision, helps the resistance,
Hmm.
so he seems like a good kid.
Okay.
How are
This
you
no,
dealing with
you
this
you
guy?
say there's nothing to go here. This is easy. This is an easy one. This is Apprentice all the way, because we've seen, like, what are two things that a teacher's dream would be? A kid with natural talent, wanted, like, willing to hone it, and a kid that also will do the right thing even when it's
Has
hard.
good morals.
Like that's like a teacher's dream. Like you having a kid with natural ability that is just sitting there ready to be taught. Like Broom Boy has natural force ability. He has this natural talent about himself. He just needs a teacher. That's literally all he needs, is someone to help teach him the ropes. I can come in and fulfill that role as teacher for him. And second, you want a kid that you can trust to do the right thing. And sadly, you can't always, trust, kids to do the right thing all the time, obviously. But with Broom Boy, we saw him being like, it seems like he's either like a slave to this person or like some sort of indentured servitude type thing.
Yeah.
Regardless, he's being treated poorly, and he still chooses to help the resistance, even though he knows that it's going to cost him. So we have this kid that's going to do the right thing. I can trust him. I can put him maybe with some groups with maybe there's some other males in that group that have a hard exterior and maybe put on a front, but inside they're wanting to get to
Hey.
know like
Yeah.
someone, they're wanting someone to reach out. And Broom Boy, we know, can handle, some hard things. He can handle someone lashing out against him. The guy that's beating him in Last Jedi because he's trying to help the animals or he's helping the resistance. Like, we know Broom Boy can take it. So if a kid says something to him, it's just going to go, he's going to be able to brush it off and know that I could still reach this person and do the right thing. So no, Broom Boy, apprentice, teacher's dream. The only thing with Broom Boy is what level is he coming in at? Like, how much remediation is Broom Boy going to need? Because he clearly, from what it seems in The Last Jedi, has no formal schooling whatsoever. So there might be an adjustment period as we get used to these things. However, we do know he's a big Luke Skywalker fan, and I have Luke Skywalker. I would be a Luke Skywalker supporter in my Star Wars classroom. So there's definitely some common ground we can find.
Absolutely. I think he'd be a pretty good student. So let's stick on the route here. So there's going to be another one on this kind of tier, and it's a
Okay.
Revenge of the Sith pull for you here. His name
Okay.
only exists in legends, Soars Bandim, but you do know him with his iconic line,
Oh no.
Master Skywalker, there's too many of them. What are we going to do? How do we think this
Oh.
kid's gonna fit into your classroom with the kids you've got in there now? He he seems like he's looking out for the betterment of others. He's
Uh-huh.
worried. Okay.
Okay.
He seems like he might
Okay.
pull through.
Okay.
Could get unfortunate circumstances for him in the movie, but as a child, I think
Apprentice turned menace. And here's why. This kid, we see in Revenge of the Sith, so trusting, so wanting to help, and so wanting, like, he's the voice for they're all the other younglings in the room are
exactly.
hiding and quiet, and he's the one that comes out and speaks first. But he's so trusting, he's so naive. When he sees Anakin there, and it's like that's you could tell just by looking at it, there's something going on. Maybe you would be right to hide like all the other children. And part of you as this teacher, you're in my Star Wars classroom and you just love like the innocent kids that come in and they're maybe a little naive, they're a little innocent, and you can tell right away. And then you slowly watch them be corrupted by the acts of middle school, or in the Star Wars universe, like watch Nadar and him have one conversation. Yeah, he's suddenly going to have a darker outlook on life. However, there is hope for this kid. Like if he makes the right friends at school, that's going to be key, is being able to help plug him in with a group where he's going to have good influences, because I think he's so naive that he's going to be easily influenced. So like if
Exactly.
he gets sit with a group of kids that maybe don't have his best intentions at heart, or they take advantage of him, he might not even realize it, versus if he's with a group of kids that, like, he's definitely going to be a kid that probably is going to sit next to Omega. Like, I'm putting him in Omega's group in
There we
class
go.
because Omega will be able to be a good influence. She's empathetic, but she also, like, we've seen Omega's like willing to tell hard truths as well, but does so in a way that's like really reassuring.
Yeah, exactly. It's good stuff to go on there. I mean, this kid has a couple seconds of screen time and we got all that out of you, so I'm glad we did that. All right. This next one, animated only appearances,
Okay.
but it is Lux Bond Terry. How do we
Okay.
feel like
Okay.
he's gonna do in the classroom? How are you gonna handle him?
Okay. So with Lux Bonteri, this one's interesting. Immediately, I go to Apprentice at first, just because if Ahsoka Tano feels so highly about someone and has such strong convictions about someone, then I tend to lean that way as well. However, we've also seen him willing to basically sell his soul to Death Watch to get what he wants. So at the same time, I'm like, how can I, as a teacher, expect, to be able to trust this student right off the bat if, he's also hanging out with was it like Paz Vizsla? Is that his name?
Yeah,
Okay, so, you know, or is it Pre Vizsla?
it's pre-Vizsla. There we go.
Pre Vizsla. Pre Vizsla.
So one of
Is
the
Paz
P's.
Vizsla the big guy from Mando?
Mandalorian. Yep.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so Pre Vizsla. And so part of me is like, I'm going to be little weary of Lux. I'm going to be excited because he's clearly very intelligent. Like, he's going to be, he has the potential. And we know this about Lux Bonteri. Like, I know at some point that he has the potential to be the leader of the classroom, whatever class he's in, because he has like this incredible pedigree, this backstory of who his family is. Incredibly intelligent, has political skills, has social skills, can talk his way out of situations, and is shown by being able to develop this relationship with Ahsoka that he can reach across the aisle and in a way like interact and see other people's points of view and also warp them to seeing his point of view. So this is a kid that could really be a great leader in a classroom. However, we just need to make sure that the intentions are there like for good, and we need to make
Right.
sure that the process of where we're going is to a healthy place and it's not going somewhere that's destructive because he's also capable of leading a group to turmoil in the classroom. And so we want to make sure that we are, starting on the right path. So I would probably put, Lux next to like someone I can really depend on as well. Like I feel like if I can get Kitster on my side as a teacher to like really be invested in the classroom, and if I'm putting Kitster in the same group as Lux, then I feel like that's a really good combo because Kitster's gonna be that hype man for Lux. Like Lux, you got this. But Kitster's gonna know what are the rules of Mr. Bradshaw's classroom. Like what do we need to follow? What are the procedures we need to have? I'll tell you who's not going anywhere near Lux Bonteri to start, and that's our Revenge of the Sith kid because Lux would have that kid wrapped around his finger so
He
quick,
would.
like so. We're gonna keep him far away. Those two groups are on opposite sides of the classroom. That's for sure.
I feel like that's probably the best way to handle him.
Okay.
He's gonna swing hard one way or the other. Next up, we've got a pretty wholesome one, Katuni. Klatuni from the youngling going to Ilum arc.
Oh,
Clone Wars. I feel like it's like a kind of Omega situation. She's a good one.
this one is difficult because I'm telling you right now, the amount of favoritism that would be blatantly obvious that I would have to be trying to cover up for Klutuni is so difficult. Like this is like the cutest little kid in the galaxy. She's super sweet, wants to help others, has the best attitude, and having to discipline this child or it's like all I want to do is like you're just a precious child. Like I want what's best for you, you're fine. Like I would have to really, have to hone in on, discipline and order and making sure that, we're doing the right thing. But outside of like Star Wars, but like in my classroom in general, I'm one of the most like laid back teachers that my students have. Like I prefer a classroom that's not quiet. Like I want there to be energy and noise and enthusiasm. And if that sometimes gets carried away, I'm okay with that as long as when I'm bringing us back to order, we come back to order. And I would say I'm adept at making relationships with people and especially my students. So typically that's never an issue. I could see Clatoonie being one of those kids, Clatoonie being one of those kids that knows that they are like, you know, the stuff and knows that like I'm one of Mr. Bradshaw's favorites, so if I speak out of turn a little bit here, maybe I might not get in trouble, and I'm going to have to work hard to make sure, we have fair and equal punishments as well and redirection, I should say, instead of punishment, like fair and
Redirection.
equal redirection positive reinforcement for that redirection. So that way, you know, Lux over there isn't sitting in the corner going, "Well, Mr. Bradshaw, you told me that I had to stay after class to finish that assignment,
He
and
would be
Katuni
that
has for the
kid.
weekend." And I'm like, "Lux, shut up! Like, do something else.
Okay.
Go back to trying to outwit Bo-Katan for a minute, please."
We have a really good pairing here because in walks Katuni, but right behind her is her best friend Petro, the other kid who's kind of her foil. So what are you doing with
Mhm,
Petro? Then they walk in together.
mhm. So Petro, correct me if I'm wrong. Petro's the one who is kind of arrogant at the beginning, thinks he finds his kyber crystal, but it actually
Yes.
isn't a kyber crystal. He has to go back.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Petro, I'll tell you right now, Petro cannot sit by Nadar. That is the first and foremost. Petro cannot be by Nadar. You know who I think Petro would sit really well with, like I think would vibe with really well, and it's Broom Boy because
Okay.
Petro
Yeah,
has the
okay.
natural ability plus the schooling with, a hint of arrogance about himself. And Broom Boy has the natural ability, no schooling, but the hard sense of morals and like what's right and wrong and willing to step up. And we've seen Petro step up at times when he really has to, but sometimes people have to like bring that out of him a little bit to do what's best for the group and or not be the hero all the time. That like it's okay to work together. And so I think Broom Boy and Petro could really that dynamic actually would really mesh well in the class. And Petro would have a lot to offer Broom Boy in terms of academics, like we're catching up on what you've missed. And Broom Boy's, personality of knowing right from wrong and, being able to stand up for himself as well in a healthy way. Um, I think that would go well. And if Petro were to make any remarks about, uh, maybe some arrogant remarks here or there, I don't think that's gonna like really affect Broom Boy in the way it might affect, someone like Kitster, who's a very loyal friend, and so
Yeah,
could be really upset if someone he's in his team is putting him down, or our Revenge of the Sith guy is very naive and upset, or even Omega, who's like, why can't we all just be friends?
exactly.
He's not
So,
sitting anywhere near Nadar, though. Like, definitely not. Those
I
two
love
cannot
Nadar.
sit anywhere close to each other. Honestly, thank goodness General Grievous stabbed Nadar when he did to make sure that Petro could never be Nadar's apprentice.
There's some truth to that. I feel like what'd you say? It was Broom Boy and Petro. That's kind of like an iron sharpen iron there. They bring out the best and
Yes.
they could really get some stuff done there
No, that's a
emotionally.
good one. No, that was a good one. I was not expecting. I was trying to think of like different kids, and I thought of like I've thought of a lot of them. I did not think about Katuni and Petro though. That's good.
And
Those are good. I
there's
forgot
like
about the
four other
younglings.
younglings in that arc, but I've got 3, 4, 5 more like real hard hitters that are like we should we should all know these if you've been like reading some
Perfect.
books, watching some shows,
Perfect.
watching the movies. So we've got some home runs here at the end. And we
Okay.
have 10 BBY. We're talking Kenobi series age Princess Leia.
Oh gosh. Oh
I know
my
that
goodness.
might be a little young. Yeah, I don't know if you teach children that young, but
No, but like in general, it's Star Wars. Like we're teaching
yes,
Nadar, we're teaching like it's Star Wars, right? So like it's a Star Wars classroom. So
you're getting Leia
this
Organa.
is tough because that I every single time I've watched Kenobi, which I've rewatched it a couple times, or every week with Princess Leia, like Vivian, Blair could do like no wrong in my eyes. Like that kid is precious. She is to be defended at all costs. There is nothing wrong that she can do. And now you're telling me that my job is to, instruct her and teach her. And we've seen how stubborn and difficult of a student that Leia can be. So she is definitely a menace, but
Okay.
it's a menace that it's like, you have those kids in your class. Like you call them like, oh my gosh, this kid's driving me insane. And for instance, I had a kid my first year teaching, my very first class ever. and that class was insane, like just insane levels all the way around. And there's one kid though in there that's just iconic, that will live on forever. That you know might not have been any other teachers. Like we're not putting this kid on the favorites list, and people I know are like, how is like this student your favorite? But because they're a menace. They are a menace, but you just have a soft spot for like for whatever reason, their personality. There's just like charismatic quality that when they do what they do and they like openly disrespect you or disobey, you just are totally willing to forgive them, come right back to the drawing board and get to work again the next day. And that's going to be Princess Leia. Is I know she's probably going to skip class to go watch the ships come in at the transport facility. I will chastise her for it. We will talk to Bail Organa and, Brea Organa during our parent teacher conference and have a conversation about this. But then the very next day when she gets there, I'm going to be like, Precious Leia,
I'm
like,
so
let's get
glad
to
you're
work.
back.
I'm so glad you're back. Like, let's do this. It's not ever going to be a, oh, Leia, like, here we go again. It's just going to be another cycle. And so I'm ready for that. And also, having a student that can just give it back to you,
Yeah.
sometimes that's actually like you appreciate that in a weird way. Like, not that, teachers should ever tolerate disrespect in the classroom, because you shouldn't, but there is a level of like great banter that Leia would be able to have in a healthy way to a classroom that is appreciated. And sometimes it's nice if, I work with students all day. Like, I don't see an adult from 8 a.m. to, 4:30. And so it's nice to sometimes you have a few students that are able to be pretty witty and give you some good one-liners. That's always appreciated. So Leia would probably be like the queen of the of the of the crop when it comes to that.
I think she would be too. Menace, I was wondering how you were gonna go because I could really see both ways, and I think Menace is probably the more accurate way to go
Like,
with it.
menace in the most
In
endearing
the most
way
endearing way.
possible.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not ever gonna say anything bad about Princess Leia in any capacity. The general, the young Princess Leia, our original series Princess Leia, comic Princess Leia, book Princess Leia. It's all perfect. Claudia
Oh,
Gray Princess Leia, Beth Revis written Princess Leia. It's all wonderful.
man. Now, you
Maybe
just
not
brought up some
Halcyon
books,
Legacy comic Princess Leia.
and, you brought up some books, so I figured I would choose one from this huge publishing initiative, The High Republic. Now, The High Republic is full of many, many children. There are honestly a ton. I could have done this whole show choosing only High Republic characters,
Right
but
now, I'm like, I hope he picks certain kids and not other kids.
I have I have one for sure that I am going to want you to go all in on, and I know that you can, but if you would like me
Okay.
to choose a second one, I have maybe her foil. And so your first one that you're getting from the High Republic, maybe your only one, but your first one
Okay.
is Vernestra Row. It's coming into your class. How excited or terrified are you?
I'm shitting bricks right now. Like, I'm to be honest, like it, Vernestra would be the most challenging student to teach, because when you think about Vernestra, she is a prodigy. She's coming into this class, and I know she's going to be better at me. Like, she could teach this class already herself. Like, whatever we're learning, she would be able to teach this herself. There's probably nothing that I can impart to her
It'd be
that
tough.
in terms of like knowledge.
Yeah.
So when you have students like that, you have to really do a great job of making sure that you don't want them to be bored. You don't want them to have nothing to do. So what you have to do is find a way to see past the like X's and O's of teaching and find a way for like their creative side or another aspect of their personality that they haven't really gotten a chance to hone in
Ooh.
on and expand. Give that a chance to really explode and be, like brilliant and come to life in a way that gets them excited to discover other things about themselves that they're interested in or that they haven't learned about themselves and figure out how to express that in a really good way. For instance, I had a student that was really like really smart, like really smart. But we figure out a way to take his love for like space and exploration and apply that to like our writing assignments, but also like he ended up going home and like creating like little Star Trek spaceships out of cardboard and then coming back and writing like little narratives based off of the journeys that those spaceships would like go on. And
Wow.
um and that was like something he hadn't got to do in like class before, is be creative about that. But it's also like he's working on like narrative structure and storytelling and the art of, you know, hooking a reader in and being able to tell something, zooming in and out on different moments.
That's
And so
impressive.
with Vernestra, she's got all the forms down. She's mastered, you know, just the use of the force. She's wise beyond her years. But like how do we get Vernestra to reach the next level? What about her like passion? So I think with her journey and maybe some of the High Republic being like the way seeker, I think I would encourage her, because this is like she's a Jedi. So I would say like the typical taboo of no religion in school kind of gets dropped a little bit with the Jedi class, because you can kind of, I would like ask her to hone in more on that spiritual side of the Force. And like, how can we challenge
She
her
does seem to push that
meditations?
away.
Like how can we challenge her meditations and to lean into some of the force visions that she has, and lean into the fact that the force revealed to her her light whip, and making her feel comfortable showing that to others in the class and other Jedi. That would be my task, is to how do I make Vernestra a more confident and well-rounded Vernestra. And because I could just easily do nothing and let her just be great on her own, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
I'm terrified because that's not easy. That's like sometimes it's harder to teach the brilliant kids than it is the students that really need that extra support. And
Yeah.
Vernestra's one of the brilliant ones.
Yeah. She is such a good character. I'm in Mission to Disaster right now, so I'm reading all about her right now. Um,
And also be like Vernestra, like in 100 years, like what the heck? Like what's going on?
what happened?
What happened to you,
Let's
sweetheart?
let's pull one. I'm back and forth between these two High Republic characters because I feel like they could both go the same way. So let's go the worst route. Okay, let's go
Okay.
Xylan Graf. He's in your class. What are we doing with
Silent
this
Graph is my class.
absolute rapscallion?
What do I do with Xylan? Here's what I would do with Xylan. I would probably intentionally try to agitate Xylan. Um, because I genuinely like Xylan's best work that he does is when he thinks that like he can manipulate something, but is
Yeah,
also like when he's low key like aggravated and agitated by something,
and he thinks
he
he's like
will
getting
lock
one
in.
back on you.
He will, yeah, he's getting one back. It's when he's comfortable and being lazy, like he gets sloppy and everything. So I wouldn't try to go out of my way to make Xylan be like super comfortable all the time. Like I'm gonna try to put him in
Wow.
situations that might push his buttons. Like, can you imagine Xylan Graf being in Omega's group?
No,
That would drive him insane,
that would drive
having
him
to work
insane.
with this little kid years younger than him that's, you know, trying to get to know
Potentially
him.
more mature than him.
Potentially more mature, like that would drive him insane. And he would consistently be, you know, trying to scheme, how do I undermine Omega? But I think because Omega is such like a brilliant kid herself, it's like going to prove a great challenge for him and how to do this, and that's going to frustrate him and make him try even harder to figure out how to do this. So like I honestly,
It
I
would
would
get him to work
drive him
hard.
insane. It would get him to work hard. But oh my goodness, I see Xylan. I'm gonna have to put that fake smile on. Like, well, so glad you're here today, Mr. Graff. He walks past, and I'm like,
So the other one I was toying with was kind of like the good version of him would be Yvonne Staros, is like not a
oh,
good
okay.
kid, but like keep your eye on her.
Oh, Avon's a menace. Like I'm telling, Avon's
Yeah.
a menace. Like that kid talks back. she's the smartest in the room. She knows she's the smartest in the room, and but she does have like a heart to do the right thing. No, Avon would be another. Yeah, putting Xylon with Avon and Omega in the same group. Oh my goodness, that would get the best out of Xylon, and probably Avon too, because they hate each other, but they would be
Yes.
consistently trying to outdo the other.
You'd get the best work out of each of them that way.
Yes, so it
Probably.
actually, makes a good pairing.
We have 2 grand slams left, okay?
Okay,
We
last
have
two.
I know what order we're gonna do this in. So, second to last, we have,
Okay.
um, Anakin Skywalker. Now, I would like to leave it up to you.
What
What age
age?
would you so I was thinking, you know, Attack of the Clones, he's 19. That's a little bit too old for
Mhm.
what you'd be teaching in real life. So I was
Okay.
gonna go maybe more with 9-year-old Anakin or 9 to 12. I think
Mhm.
you've even read some novels where he's a little bit older than that, maybe between The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. So kind of
Mhm.
that age where he is still figuring himself out,
Okay.
but it is nonetheless Anakin Skywalker.
Clearly, we have a kid with enormous potential. He's the most naturally gifted kid in the class, so you know that right off the bat. Thankfully, Anakin at this time in his life, he's 9, 10, 11, doesn't quite know that he's the most naturally gifted in the class to the point where he's willing to use that as a way to feel superior because he's so just focused on helping others. So, what we're going to do first and foremost is we're going to schedule monthly times where he is able to, do a little pen pal with Shmi, making sure we're
Ooh,
checking in with
okay.
mom back home. We're making sure we're doing some monthly letters and some monthly Zoom calls with mom, getting Anakin on the call so we can see mom, feel comfortable there. And, I pride myself on relationships. So when it comes to Anakin, like relationships are so much the key to life in general as a teacher, but also when it comes to this child in particular, the relationship matters that much more. There's some
Yes,
students you have
absolutely.
that are going to come in like, like I don't have to worry about like an Omega or a Kidster doing what they need to do. Like they're going to work hard for every single teacher and they're going to go on to be just fine. Anakin is gonna want to always like impress, but he's dealing with so much like insecurity inside and so much nervousness and fear that we want to make sure that we make him feel comfortable. We want to hone in on that relationship. We want him to feel seen, heard, feel as if he has a voice, that cares about him, that and someone that he can come to vent about things or express himself because of those insecurities, as we see with Anakin when they continue to fester and grow over time. And with the passing of Qui-Gon, knowing that there's no one else in his life that he feels he can, express that to in any way, it's in many ways, this is like going to get maybe a little too deep.
Let's do it.
I think about like kids in my life that I see maybe they come from like really rough backgrounds or I know they have like a difficult story uh and you think about what it would be like to be a child that has, Obi-Wan and Anakin like they care for each other. Obviously they have a really close relationship, but Anakin, went from like 9 years old to his early 20s. Not feeling he had a single person in his life, that he could really, go to for emotional support, like, other than, like,
Yeah.
Padme, but someone that was healthy. So I'm, like, thinking of, like, kids that I know, or kids that, like, my friends, like, that our teachers have taught and I've seen come through our school system that Like, they feel as if they have absolutely no one in their life that they can, like, a positive person that they can trust. And what that just does to someone over time, like over a years and years, and like how that like will fester and grow and grow and grow until it has to be released at some point. Like, and it's going to come out in a way that is not necessarily great. And it's like heartbreaking to see so many people growing up in a system where it's not set up for them to succeed because they're counted as another number, or they're counted as a test score, or they're counted as, this is insane. In This isn't like, not to get political, but like in Orange County, I learned this the other day. So like, if you have a school that is like testing high, uh basically, like, money is distributed to the schools more so like per student that have higher test scores. And so in a lot of times, students that are from more affluent areas tend to test higher than students from maybe a more impoverished like community. And so naturally, when you have affluent schools, they're going to, as a school, test higher. And like, the numbers were from the bottom like 20%, 25% of students in the county. There was an average of $1,500 per student, like, each year, that was spent more on the students from like the top 25% than the bottom 25%. So like, when you think about $1,500 going to each kid at school and how much more that, like, for the school, that differentiates. And then if you take that kid in school every single year, like the $1,500. But I also think about, like, if you look at like Anakin and like this, and like another kid that felt like he had someone, and let's say like you separate that, like this kid has a mentor that they trust. And each year they're able to go to that mentor and they're on this continuous climb until they are able to emotionally even support themselves and mentor someone else, versus Anakin's like cord being strung like tighter and tighter and tighter until eventually it snaps. And you just feel like that's something that pervades our system with kids so often, is because of society now, that these, it's that's why it's so important. And honestly, like, that's why teachers and coaches and counselors have to play that role a lot of times, because of the lack of support that we give the families in our communities. And so as a teacher for Anakin, I want to make sure that I can fulfill whatever role I can to make sure he feels comfortable for that school year. And at least hopefully that helps him go forward, just in case, because we know that Shmi's not at home. We know he's not getting that parental support at home, and because Shmi's not there, just like with all your students, you don't know what situations that they're going on at home. And for the ones that maybe don't have the best support at home, you have to go that extra mile to try to really help them out. That was maybe longer winded than what you were looking for, but I get worked up sometimes when I talk about how much like I care for the kids in, you know, you know, in general, just kids in general.
Yeah. That was the response I was actually looking for. I was hoping you would give me a lot there because Anakin's that important of a character, but also I think we both feel very strongly for community. Like people
Mhm,
need friends and support, and Star Wars has given us a very good story with that character that shows us
mhm,
what the lack of that can do to you.
mhm.
So so yeah, I mean, you got to have a support system. You have to, and it's got to be good. And so
And it's like a common theme throughout Star Wars. Like, even
yeah,
most recently, just looking at Crosshair being able to come back to his community in the Bad
exactly.
Batch, and his brothers willing to take him in and lift him up and support him, not having to feel like he has to do everything on his own. And it's something like I wish we were able to like preach more of as a society, like being able to rely on our communities, but also give communities the support they need, give families, especially like the support they need, or single parents the support they need, to be able to help. Because I can't tell you how many like single parents that I've met that are absolutely just freaking warriors. Like, I do not know how they're able to do everything they do.
Yeah,
And it blows my mind, like the lack of external support that they can receive at times, and they're having to juggle everything. Like, it's just incredible.
completely incredible. Thank you for your work, Shmi. for doing that for us.
Thank you, Shmi. Shmi Skywalker, the GOAT. Honestly, the biggest unsung hero in the galaxy.
Honestly. So, with that one fleshed out, I think it only makes sense that you're looking down your roster and you see the last kid on the list
Okay.
is Ahsoka Tano.
um,
So,
okay.
please take it away because this is your favorite character.
We
What are
talked
you
about
doing with
Ahsoka, my
this?
actual class today, which was funny. She has
Perfect.
like so she her quote. It's the first week of school, so I have her quote on the board every day. It's a new day. It's a new beginning from Rebels, season 1, and that quote actually hangs up in my room, signed by Ashley Eckstein, right up there. So, um, no, Ahsoka's my favorite character in Star Wars. I've said that a couple times throughout the week. So this week, at the end of the school week, we had like a little game we played, and they had to like review different rules for the school, class, and different procedures. Well, also I sprinkled in every day I sprinkle in little fact about Mr. Bradshaw or like a random trivia fact that goes with one of the themes on our stuff because like I had an Inside Out 2 presentation. So a couple times I was
Oh,
like,
okay.
oh, so today we're gonna, have a theme presentation from the highest grossing animated movie of all time now. And so on our game today, one of the questions was, "What's the highest grossing animated movie of all time?" And they're like, "I have no idea. I've never heard this before." And I'm like, "Come on, like you have. Like I know you have."
Yeah.
And some of them got it, of course. But so Ahsoka comes in, and all I'm gonna tell her is just be the superstar that you are. Just be the superstar that you are, child. You need nothing from me. Just go be who you are. Do your thing. Like I am your biggest supporter. I'm sponsoring you for all of the school events. This is that's all I can say about Ahsoka Tano. Like honestly, I'm sending her to the next grade. She's good. Like flying colors, A plus. Like go ahead and go to high school. Like you're done, or go to whatever Jedi graduate school you want to be. But she is no Jedi anymore, I guess. But you're ready. You're ready for the next step. We could, just go ahead. We'll send her to the world between worlds for her little shadow warrior, um, holistic experience to come out ready to live life anew and become Ahsoka the White. So Ahsoka Tano, talk about journey of a character going from being this character that
Right.
was absolutely dragged by the fandom when it first came out to now being inarguably one of the maybe like 5 most popular characters in Star Wars. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane. Like, she has her own to go from a super hated character in Clone Wars as Anakin's apprentice to now leads her own show and is going to be on a poster for probably a movie that comes out in the 50-year anniversary of Star Wars.
That's
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 what an
crazy.
arc, for
Yeah.
that character. And so all I got to do is I'm all I'm doing is championing. Yeah, that's what I do as a teacher. Like my job is to take each student I have, go as far as I can with them in 1 year, but be their champion consistently every single day. Like that's my job. So Ahsoka, that's what I will do for Ahsoka. I will champion her to defeat Thrawn whenever she is of age later on in the future. That's the goal. That's our goal.
It is insane how any table you would put her at, that table is better because of her.
Hmm.
She's gonna lift anyone and everyone up.
Hmm.
She's just
We
that
have to
good.
watch out if she's with Lux, though. We don't. The teenage love birds, possibly
Drama.
like the little drama there. We'd have to. We might not put them in a group right off the bat. They might have to earn that privilege to sit in the same desk group. That's for sure.
They have to earn that privilege.
They have to earn that privilege. Like we have to demonstrate that we're not going to be a little too flirtatious in class. Okay.
And also they you know, don't get along sometimes as well.
Yeah,
So
that could be fiery as well. No lovers' quarrels in class, please.
I think that was pretty good. The only thing else that I have to throw at you is like the classroom across the hall has Barris Offee. And so there might just be a little
We'll get a little worried about betrayal that ever goes on in school. I
but
might get framed from some crime.
exactly. It's not your student, not your problem, but definitely something that like you'd want to keep an eye on.
I'm keeping an eye on that class over there.
But
Luke, is that all of them?
that's the roster that I had for you. I think
Perfect. No, I
it's a
that was perfect.
good
I
little group.
appreciate, that's a lot of work you did. I mean, those were some deep cuts. We have some obviously characters that everyone knows about. I I love this was fun. It's hard to I think this was a fun way to like relate what like a teacher goes through and like thinks about in like a way that's funny because it's Star
Yeah,
Wars
I never would have heard
at the
that
same
internal
time.
monologue from a teacher really before.
So that was fun. And like most jobs, it's like really hard to explain what being a teacher is like unless you're actually doing it. Like, but it's like every job, is like like if you're doing a service job and someone, one time I heard like one of my friends who like worked as like a server at this really intense restaurant, and someone was just like, all you do is wait tables. Like, it can't be that hard. I'm like, I'm sure like that job has to be like one of the most stressful jobs in the world. Like, you're when you're in charge of making sure some like like an affluent rich person's going to this fancy
Stuck
restaurant and you
up.
want them to have a good time. Like
Yeah.
being a server has got to be so stressful. Because your livelihood depends on people. Do they like you enough to give you money at the end of the day? So, like in general, like that's the case. With teaching is hard to explain. But this was also fun because it was like back to school themes. I just finished the first week. You did some awesome jobs with the deep cuts. We're all over the timeline in this
All
episode, which was
over it.
fun. So this was perfect. Probably not gonna be our most like listened to podcast or watch show of all time, but I do not care because this one, I think that this was definitely worth doing. This was definitely worth doing, and I appreciate you for allowing me the opportunity to bring out some of my passion for both my personal life and Star Wars and like my professional life and Star Wars and merge them together a little bit. So thank
Exactly.
you
And I
for that.
think I exactly. I think that's where Star Wars like can be used the most in my life is like I go through personal hardships and I use Star Wars to help me cope with them or help me
Mhm.
get through them. And so I mean this is just an on-screen recording of you explaining how you do that. So I mean, it's just a kind of invaluable. I love that.
Well, everybody, that's all for this Monday's episode of Star Wars News Net. Join us this Thursday for Star Wars News Net Live, where we'll be talking about something that we have not decided yet because we're recording this a week before Thursday. So we'll let you know about that. Stay tuned every Saturday for the Star Wars Timeline show. Luke and I are still in the year 232 BBY, making our way through High Republic Phase 1. We're almost done with Young Jedi Adventures. Every single Saturday, Luke and I tackle the next piece of canon material. You can check me and probably Luke. We might have a mission of the month next Monday. We'll have to figure out what we're talking about next Monday. But you can always find me here every Monday. Usually Luke is here on Mondays as well for the Star Wars Newsnet Monday show. We try to bring you 3 episodes of Star Wars a week. Hopefully we'll see you on Thursday. If not, check out Star Wars Newsnet for everything Star Wars. We literally cover everything from comics, books, movies, TV shows, toy news to park information,
Games.
games, everything. So, Luke, it's been a privilege and an honor, my friend. For Light and Life, everyone, remember that we are all
The
in the Republic.
Republic.